What up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the College Chaos Podcast. I'm Garrett Ross alongside my man Jack Mackenzie, holding it down. Emery Winter is unavailable with us today. He's doing like we're all doing right now. When you get an opportunity to seize the moment and take some quality time before football season, you definitely do that. So the man Emery is holding it down and taking care of some business. Jack as well, just got back from another trip, been kicking it up in Big Ten country. How you doing?
Yeah, that was my last trip before the football season starts, but I'm doing good. My cousin got married up in Indianapolis. It was a good time. Lovely city.
I love Indy.
Beautiful city.
Like, dude, I was thinking about that this morning when I was coming in. Like, Indy is probably, I went there a few years ago. It's beautiful. It reminds me a lot of, if anybody has been to Texas, you've been to Tyler, Texas, it reminds me like a bigger version of Tyler. The layout and everything is just on a loop. It's cool though. But yeah, no, Indy's a cool place to kick it and the people are friendly. Have you ever been to a city where like the people were just not friendly? Like there's like Seattle is one that always sticks out for me. Like, I mean, everybody there was freaking rude.
Friendly. I've heard Boston's bad. Never been there.
That makes sense.
New York is not super friendly, but I do think largely the Northeast is like not friendly, but they'll be pissed off and help you.
Right.
And be pissed off the whole time and still help you.
Yeah. Like so, some assertives.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, man, but no, it's been interesting, dude. Like since we last spoke, the Pac-12 has officially become the Pac-4. And, you've had a lot of smoke last week, like what's going to happen with Cal and Stanford, Oregon State, and Washington State. And I kind of think everybody knew that as everything was unfolding, you knew the future. You knew the fate of Washington State and Oregon State. It sucks for both of those programs. I think the interesting one, and I'm really not surprised that Cal and Stanford are struggling to find a place. I think it's interesting how many people really on Twitter in general are like kind of caught off by this. But to me, like you look no further than the market itself in Oakland, right? Like you can't hold on to a sports franchise. Like the Raiders are gone. They chunked the deuce. They went to Vegas. The A's are about to. Like to me in general, that's a market where nobody gives a damn about sports. And the fact that you have a notion that, oh, we're good at Olympic, like you totally don't get what's happening right now. You don't have a comprehension of this. So I don't really necessarily feel bad for those programs. Maybe that's all right. I feel bad for the student athletes and I feel bad for the coaches, the administrators and the people who have put them in this position. I don't give a damn about those people like that. That's a bad look all the way around. You should have been more assertive in the first place. But the whole ACC notion, like you would go across country and merge with the ACC, that never made any sense to me. Like from a competitive standpoint, from just in general, financially, like that was never made any sense to me. What were your thoughts when the smoke come out? Like we're going to see this coast to coast merger once again with the ACC and the Pac-4 at this point.
I was just kind of sitting there being like, there's no way academics is this strong. No, because like that's what the tie is in my mind is,
and it's false.
These schools that are all like really prestigious academic institutions are going to try and stick together and help each other out. But at the end of the day, there are enough institutions in the ACC that are like, yeah, no, this is an athletic league.
Right.
This is an athletic league, and we're trying to make money. And that's what it ended up being. And I do think like it's not ever going to happen. I think Stanford and Cal are thoroughly isolated over on the West Coast with mediocre athletics. I know Stanford like wins a lot of championships in a lot of sports, like
but they
a lot
don't
of
make
Olympic
money.
Sports, but they don't make money, and that's what I mean by mediocre athletics. So I guess mediocre football is really what it is. Their basketball is pretty mediocre too.
Yeah.
Either way, I was a little surprised by how much steam it seemed to have right at the start of like, oh, this could happen, and I'm like, no.
My thing was like, what really stood out to me and was annoying, and it was funny to hear like ACC people's perspective on this, was the whole Notre Dame aspect. Like Notre Dame's coming in. Well, these are great. These colleges hold such prestige, and they do. That's great. But if you're not willing to join the ACC in football and help them, why the hell should anybody else? Like, why are you lobbying for Stanford and Cal to do? That makes no damn sense to me. And so this morning I got on Twitter and I come across this note and I found this intriguing. Jim Williams, Forbes, he's always on 365 Sports. He's been on one of the main go-to people in this whole realignment thing with
Really insightful.
Yeah,
guys.
with Pat Crakes and Bob Thompson as well. But he put this tweet out. Oliver Luck. I love how in athletics, especially football, when there's a new league or there's trouble, Oliver Luck always comes to the rescue with his cape. Oliver Luck will be starting the process of working with teams that should be added to the PAC-4 from the American and the Mountain West. A list of about 12 teams will be reviewed. This does not mean a partnership or merger is off the table. It's just in the process.
Yeah. My first reaction to that, aside from the Oliver Luck,
Yeah, exactly.
He finally actually took one of these jobs, and it's like the most dire situation where, and I'm not saying this is his MO, but like where he cannot be blamed if nothing goes right.
But it's just funny, like he's the fixer.
It's a no lose situation for Oliver Luck. But my actual initial reaction was like, so how are they looking at adding anyone? Like,
yeah.
I know the Pac-12 has a certain brand identity, but it's all tied to these schools that have fled.
That are gone.
So, like, I'm sorry, the Pac-12 brand identity does not live very large in my mind for the 4 schools that remain. And to me, that means I think the Mountain West Conference is that West Coast Conference now, and I don't see why they can't stand pat and be like, we have our league, we run it the way we like to. If you'd like to be in it, you can apply for membership.
Yeah, I
think it could be a slam dunk, and I don't think there would be a lot of like leveraging this or that or holding up Oregon State, Washington State. Like, I just don't fully know why the Pac-12 isn't like thoroughly dead, if that makes sense. Like why they're talking about adding when they'd essentially have to add all of the Mountain West.
Well, see, and that's what's intriguing about this, because like to me, it's a trickle down effect of what's happening right now, right? Like if you go back and you read that tweet, it's okay. Well, we're going to take a handful of teams from where we're potentially looking at taking a handful of teams from the Mountain West and the Americans. So you take them, then what? Like, are the teams left out supposed to merge and form this new conference? Are you magically a Power 5 conference? Because it's all about brand power, right? Like, you are not.
The Power 5
it's gone.
That's done. Like, so, I don't see any way that whatever West Coast Conference comes out of this is given the autonomy level.
They shouldn't be.
Like, I'm honestly, this can be a discussion for another time, but I'm kind of wondering what the future of this autonomy level is, because, you know, if you're cutting out one conference, why not look at cutting out 2 more, and then it's just the big 2?
See, and I think this is where I think I got confused last week, because when I was trying to talk about Arizona State and leaving in the future, and you brought up, well, the Big 12 would be, and I argued that. What I meant by that was, I feel like you're going to see a situation where the Big 12 as it is right now, in the new form of college football that we probably will see after 2031, is it still the Pac-12 or the Big 12? Or is it something where all of these teams branch out and they form this new, like you have to navigate a new form and a new league of college football? Would the teams in the Big 12 still be as a whole with Arizona? That's where I was coming from with that. And I think if you go back, like Trev Alberts, the AD at Nebraska, had interesting comments this weekend about how he sees the future of college football, and that's where it's going to go. And that's what triggered, like, I feel like that's what I was trying to say, and I just did not. I mean, I poorly executed it.
I'm still sitting here being like,
flabbergastedly.
I'm still kind of sitting here being like, look, who from the Big 12 is getting taken into that, like,
nobody
32 team league? So the Big 12 is going to stick together.
It could, but that's where I was going. Anyway, that's kind of where I was coming from with that.
At least the Big 12 that we have for this 2023-24 season, that Big 12, I think, will stick together. I think that Arizona, unless they miraculously get better at football, is going to be a part of that. I think Colorado will too. Now, if Utah and Arizona State want to go do something else, I don't know what else is going to be out there for them. But yeah, so kind of getting back to the pack of it. Maybe looking past the questions more to like, what would your best case scenario answer for them be for those 4 schools? What's the best thing that can happen for them?
I think you find a way. Okay, so it's intriguing because if you go and look at forming a league, right? Like, so if you take any school from the Mountain West right now, each one of them are facing a $34 million buyout if they left before 2024. That's a lot of money that a lot of these, they just don't have, right? Like if you generally look at what they bring in on an annual basis, that's what all this is about, right? So if you're bringing in like $6 million annually for everything, there's no way in hell you can pay that.
6 whole years.
You can't do that. For the Mountain West to dissolve, you need 9 of 12 votes. I think that's what's going to be the next step, right? Like I think you're going to go into this, which is going to be intriguing because Mountain West Conference Commissioner Gloria Navarez was supposed to join us on 365 Sports Friday, and she wasn't able to make the schedule work. She will join us this week. So hearing her perspective on this is going to be intriguing. So I think that might be what's next, right? Like, do you see, like, I feel like if you're the PAC-4 right now, you look at the Mountain West, just logistically, that's your next move, and you try to figure out a way where, like, but then you throw in the Comcast money that you owe. Like, do you try to, I feel like there's a work there where you try to create these buyouts to form a new league.
Yeah. I can see that happening. Again, I have my reservations about like why do they dissolve the Mountain West to go to the PAC, which is a dead brand in my mind. But if I'm going to look past that, then my next question is, so if it takes 9 of 12 to dissolve the Mountain West, are you just banking on those PAC-4 being like, yeah, we want 10 or we want 12 teams?
No.
Because they might only want 8. Well, they might only want 6.
Well, I think, honestly, they probably only want, 6 maybe. Like, maybe that's what you're looking at, right? Because if you go back to that tweet,
you got to get to 10 as a league.
I think you're eyeballing 12, probably. Like, you definitely need 10, but if possible.
If it's 12, then they're adding 8 teams. It takes 9 to dissolve that Mountain West. And SMU is not in the Mountain West.
That's the thing. Like, what happens then? Like, that's what I think it's intriguing about this.
Is not in the Mountain West. Like, can the Pac-12 raid the American?
Well, I mean, there's numbers on that too. Like, so if any American team leaves, you got 27-month notice where you pay out $10 million. That's more feasible. I think that might be what you see because SMU has made it known, right? Like, they want to play Power 5. There's
an issue with that 27 months timeline though.
Yeah, it's exactly.
It's too late.
It's too late.
Too late.
I know. So that's the crazy. Like, I think because right, like, you don't want to take on. It sucks to say this, but like, you don't want to take on the Oregon State and Washington State of the Mountain West, right? No. Like, it's crazy. So I think you do. Like, I think you try to find a way to generate. Maybe you do like Florida State was threatening with private equity. Maybe you try to find your brokers in that market of Cal and Stanford because the money is there, right? The passion's just what's not there. So maybe you try to put something together where you create these buyouts. You get a handful of teams. Maybe you grab Boise, and I know that's the thing, dude. It's like even if you grab these, we're in a point in time where brands are the only thing that matter. So I don't see how you salvage it. Like, and Stanford, I could see getting to a point maybe Stanford, I think Stanford could be the only school that does this, where they have the funds in place where if they really wanted to, push came to shove, you try to go independent until 2031, but they're the only school I feel like that even has a semblance of that option.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think the Cal system, just because there are multiple schools in the system, I don't think it can support that for Berkeley. Obviously, Oregon State and Washington State are in like tougher financial situations.
Especially Oregon State.
Oh, I was going to say especially Washington State.
Well, Oregon State has just put all this money into renovating that stadium, right? Like, so if you're not able to, I don't even know how that works. Like, if you're a company, think if you're the company that is building that, and you're looking at this saying, bro, we really gonna get our money? Like I don't know. There's just so many integral things behind the scene that
they have to finish that stadium. Like you don't leave that half like that.
No, I know you're going to finish it, but
is
like
an ugly scar
principles,
across the university's athletic department if you don't finish that. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and I mean, arguably, it's an important thing to finish to improve your game day revenue,
right?
Because like if you're losing money from other areas, you got to maximize every other area. But yeah, it's man. Sorry, I lost the thread of where we started.
So, okay, here's another thing I'm worrying about the future of this Pac-4. So with all these decisions being made right now, like you don't hear George Kliavkoff's name mentioned one time.
Oh no, he done.
So that's the thing. Like, so when you're bringing in Oliver Luck, are you looking at like, okay, well maybe do we try to make him like the Band-Aid? Like, is he the Jim Grove of our AD, of our commissioner thing? Because I know, like,
honestly, maybe.
I mean, that's because there was talks about getting Bob Thompson in there. I know he was like, no, I'm good right now. But I think that's a situation now where you're like, okay, and I mean, that's just the funny part. Like George Kliavkoff is not mentioned in any of this. Like he ran it to the ground, and now is this. So that's another aspect. Is like, what is his future going to be? Like, is he just gone in all this? And then like, from a recruiting standpoint, you built all of this momentum. If you're Oregon State and Washington State, you have everything. This is the best you've been in so long.
Yeah,
and it's just
I think we're about
now
to see their recruiting tank.
Well, you are. You already like. What are you going to do if you're a kid?
You don't know where you're playing.
Like there's no way in hell I'm going. If I'm an athlete, and if I'm an athlete with any sliver of an option, there's no way I can. And that would suck, dude. Like if you're growing up and that's what you always want to do is be a Beaver, because kids are like that. There's people like that, and then now you have that option. It's like, what the hell do we do?
Play against Oregon in that rivalry and really enjoy that. Or for Washington State guys, like you grew up wanting to be a Cougar, wanting to play in the Apple Cup, which is honestly one of the cooler rivalries out there. It's just you're left there kind of like either holding the bag of your dream, being like, well, going to try and make this happen. Hopefully Washington's nice enough to keep the rivalry going. Or you're like, you might even have to just switch sides because it's like I'd rather play Power 5 or in Big Ten football just because it's big time and I'm good enough.
So did you see? And that was another thing too with all this is like what's going to like now the Big Ten's going to play their conference championship in Vegas. That is so like that's just
that feels as wrong as the Big Ten basketball tournament being played in Madison Square Garden.
That's fair. Yeah.
That feels just about as wrong. It's like I see it, I understand it. Cool stadium, great venue, like fun city, just it's not yours.
Right.
And I don't want to be like crazy territorial, but like god damn it, it's not yours.
So no, that's a really great point. And that was my thing too, like with all this, like you knew because Vegas was gonna be like that was gonna be people started fighting over like Dallas, like we were talking about with Dallas and the SEC and the Big 12.
The Big 12 makes a push out there.
Hell yeah, they're going to.
Just because like Arizona's by there.
You do with the Utah, you're gonna make a push towards Vegas.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So is there anything now that
I will say, like, I got to ease up on the Big 10 a little because one, I do think the Big 12 is going to do it, and I'm a Big 12 guy. And two, because whose is it then?
Yeah.
Whose is it now?
It's
like,
it's open.
Cool, go
it's
for
open
it.
For business.
I don't fully understand. Like it, I think it will feel much more wrong to see Ohio State playing a conference championship game there than like Houston, if that ever happens. Right. Just like geographically, it feels like Las Vegas is in the South.
Yeah.
Houston's also in the South, like just under the Mason-Dixon line,
Yeah. All right, so as we're heading into the final, God, it's so weird to say. This really sucks. The final year of the traditional Pac-12. Are there any storylines? Are there any matchups that you're looking forward to seeing one last time? Like, what are your thoughts in general as we head into this final farewell?
I think a fun thing we'll actually be able to see. Well, it's can Utah, despite an injury to the starting quarterback, and I know this is not what anyone I think in that conference out of their fans is thinking, but can Utah win one for the Big 12 over the Big 10? Ooh. I think that's going to be a very interesting storyline to follow because if Utah makes it, what, 3 straight?
3 straight. It would be 3 straight.
It would be 3 straight over the 4 biggest brands in that conference all going to the Big 10. And Utah's just on their way out with a 3-peat going F you. And that would be, and they will not be caring that they're doing it for the Big 12, but that would be big for the Big 12 in terms of competition level.
I didn't think about that aspect.
In terms of like, hey, we've got a team with some skins on the wall. You're crazy about the brands. We get it. You're making money. We've got the football team.
No, that's a good point. That was one, like, when I thought of Utah and this swan song, I was thinking more of like their future conference games that they're going to be playing in non-con. Something like. But that's a really good point, dude, about the Big 12, Big 10 aspect. Man,
and then also any like last FUs from the schools getting left behind.
Who
like does Stanford pop up and randomly beat USC one last time?
Oh, dude, that would be so
that feels
freaking
like a
hilarious.
classic. Or do Washington State and Oregon State win the last rivalry?
That's what I want, dude. Like, I want Oregon State and Washington State to play for the Pac-12, and I don't even think it's realistic. Like with the division, I don't even think that's possible. But like, if one of those teams could miraculously win the Pac, that would be so freaking hilarious.
It would be so glorious. I think Oregon State's got the best shot out of the teams getting left behind. So maybe DJU and that offense can grind away and find a way.
We'll wrap the segment up with this.
I do want to get to Alpha Buckeye's question.
Okay, what's up, man?
Chat. He said a couple things. One, he said, I don't see how Stanford can get a football schedule as an independent, and who would give Stanford a TV deal?
That's a good point.
NBC, pair Notre Dame and Stanford.
That would be the only option right there.
Stanford's
probably
not bringing in a lot of eyes or a lot of money, but I think NBC can fill out more of a slate of college football by adding Stanford. And frankly, I think that ACC schools might have Stanford's back on this. They'll fill the gaps with some Mountain West, random other schools. They'll find a way.
Well, I can tell you one thing. You also need to take into consideration, and I'm not saying this is but there are schedule conflicts now. Like in the instance I'm bringing,
non-conference games are opening up because of the movement.
Baylor, Utah is one example. Like that, like we know for a fact, covering Baylor, that they're going to have to find a new non-con game for that Utah matchup because they're going to be con. So I think there's ways
for an SEC.
Yeah, there's ways to fill the gaps there for the schedule. I would say for a couple of years, but he does bring up a good point. And I think that brings up a whole nother can of worms, which me and you were on two totally different pages when it comes to the future of scheduling.
Yeah.
But no, that's a really legit question.
It's a good question. And also I think something to keep in mind, I don't believe independents have to hit 12 games.
Probably not. I'm not 100. I'm not
100% on that, but I do not believe they have to hit 12 games.
But here's the thing. If you're not, all right, like right now, Stanford right there, they have proven like their track record, they don't give a damn about championships. So this is going to sound really corny, but it reminds me of there's this small team in West Texas that plays 6-man football. They play an outlaw schedule where they never make the playoffs because they just want to stick. They were really good in the 90s, really good. So if you take that same kind of mindset, you don't care about the championships. You just want, we have a product, it's here, we're staying regional. I think they would be willing to sacrifice to make it work.
I think that would be very interesting to see. And I also think that they could spin it like it's a principled stand, and we're treating our student athletes better. We're not asking as much of them.
Right.
We're not putting them through the travel, and they're not getting banged up as much. It's better for their physical and mental health.
Yes.
And so that could be an interesting outcome if they go independent. I'll have to do some research on how much they have to fill out that schedule, but there are options there. I do think NBC with Notre Dame is an interesting option because they wouldn't get a lot of money for it, but I do think NBC might appreciate having more college football content to basically lead in or lead out of their Notre Dame games.
Even if you threw it on Peacock, like apparently they don't care about streaming. They'll help throw all their games on streaming. They don't care. I mean, realistically, I mean, I think that could be a way you can navigate that. But so what I wanted to get into, like the last thing here, who do you think has more pressure on them this year? Well, the way things are going, is it Texas, Oklahoma leaving for the SEC, or is it your USC and your Oregon, Washington per se? And we're talking about the brands, the main brands.
More pressure on them
from a brand perspective, heading for another conference.
Ooh, I
still think it's Texas.
I think the most pressure is on the 3 non-USC schools going to the Big Ten.
Okay,
I think UCLA is getting lifted miraculously out of the Pac-12. I don't think they don't care, but I think there's some pressure there to be like, look, show us you deserved this.
Right.
Don't be the next Rutgers. And then for Oregon and Washington, I think there's pressure to show like, we did deserve this. We know we deserve this. We know we deserve the money.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's pressure there. So, you know, if both of them go and like lose to their rivals that they're leaving for dead at the end of the year and don't win the conference championship, don't even play for the conference championship, I don't think it would be a good look for them. I don't think there's any outside pressure on Texas or Oklahoma. I don't think there's, or USC. I don't think there's any outside pressure. I think all the pressure is internal. All the pressure is self-made. All the pressure is, this is what we think we are, so we have to live up to that. I don't think anyone outside cares whether or not Texas and Oklahoma are good enough to compete in the SEC. I think everyone's just like, cool, we'll see cool matchups. Like, we'll crap on you if you're not doing well. But, like, I don't call that pressure. I think that's just, like, honestly just a little bit of a vendetta from us outside. I include myself in that. But it's like, I don't see how I can call that pressure.
See, and I would disagree from the standpoint of, I feel like Texas, with their arrogance, the way they've really started all of this. I know you can go back to the 80s in Oklahoma and the Supreme Court and everything, but if you want to get down to realistically dominoes fall on realignment, I feel like Texas Longhorn Network kind of stirred the pot with all this. And I feel like there is outside expectation. There is outside noise. Now, I think that they've done a good job with this coaching staff of kind of putting up walls and deflecting that. But I do feel like there is some outside pressure from people that Texas would have more so than other. And maybe USC has this. I just feel like the passion from geographically standpoint. We'll cut that out. I struggle to speak it.
I ain't cutting that out. That's going in.
That is golden. No, but for real though, I feel like from a geographically standpoint and how everything in Texas people care, I feel like they have more pressure on them at the end of the day.
Oh man, like I see it. I see the like. I talk with my friends who went to Texas.
Yeah,
love Texas. They're through and through Longhorns, and they're just like, man, if not now, when?
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, you have to.
But it's internal. And I know you didn't specify in your question internal, external.
No, that's
but like for
fair.
those of us who don't care for Texas, it's just like.
I think it's internal though. Like, I feel like it's external as well.
I just don't see it. Like, honestly, I think people will take advantage of if they don't meet these expectations, which they do have expectations.
Yeah.
I just don't see how that's. I don't think they feel pressured from the outside to win. I think they only feel pressure from the inside. And I think that's just by nature of who they are. I think there's outside pressure on Oregon and Washington to prove themselves, prove why they should get full shares. I think there's outside pressure on UCLA to be like, so is USC really just carrying you wherever they go, or is like, are you good? USC, Texas, and OU, it's all like, y'all are massive brands. You have enough inside pressure. Fail or not, we're gonna laugh at you if you do.
That's fair. I mean, like, for real, they are under the most scrutiny.
So, like, yes, to be fair, like, if you're looking at just any kind of pressure, any kind of pressure at all, those big brands have the most, but it's all of their own making.
No,
all
really,
of their own making, all
1,000% correct. 1,000% correct.
So,
yeah. All right, so next up, we're going to get into who we think the conference champions will be at the end of the season, coming up next here on the College Chaos Podcast. Welcome back into the College Chaos Podcast. Garrett Ross, Jack Mackenzie here with you, and we appreciate you tuning in whenever you do live, or if it's going back on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever it is, however you enjoy.
Segment cuts,
shorts, whatever. We appreciate you. Make sure you go like and subscribe as well, as we are close. We are closing in on that 12,000 goal. We're at 11.7, I believe, on Friday.
Hell yeah.
Or over 11.7. We went over 34,000 on 365 Sports.
I went off the grid for the weekend.
Bro, yeah, you did. So it's we got it on and popping. We've been holding it down. But so, dude, this is going to be an intriguing season. And I think every conference, right, like that's the thing is, I feel like there's been so much talk, and rightfully so, with realignment that I personally have kind of struggled with looking and actually getting into the nuts and bolts of actual football.
Yeah.
Like, it's so freaking
We've
hard.
been in like this one mode,
Like,
all
just locked
season.
in, dog.
And
But
like, hey, I think we've been killing it, but yeah, like everything around us has been about realignment. And so now it's like, oh, wait.
there's football.
There's football.
There is football to be played.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, I think the easiest way to do this as we head into looking at the conference, let's go in alphabetical order. So
One last time around the Power
one
Five.
one last time around the Power, and that's another thing. We're sticking with the Power 5, soon Power 4. The ACC, starting with the ACC. There's so much smoke around Florida State, rightfully so. I think they've earned it. But at the same time, I'm not ready to go all in on them. I feel like they are obviously have the best team they've had in close to a decade, really going back to Jameis's when Jameis, took them to the Natty. But I'm not like, I feel like there's so much they've created, and this is what maybe I'm totally wrong.
There's
on
a
this.
large jump expectation for them.
That and the outside noise and pressure they just put on themselves. Like, I feel like there's too much going on there. I like Clemson a lot. Yeah. I think Clemson, what you look last year, 11-3, you were undefeated in the ACC, and that's still not good enough, right? Like, you go 11-3, and that's a bad season. A lot of people are like, well, what the hell happened to Clemson? I mean, I've personally questioned Dabo, and is he, ready to take on this new landscape of college football? I think he's adapted well. Honestly, I think when you look at their offense, they're freaking loaded. Cade Klubnik is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. I think he'll be a Heisman contender in a couple of years. The running back, when you have a guy like Will Shipley, he not only can do it on the ground, he can catch out of the backfield, and he's a force on special teams. Defense is loaded. I like their schedule. I just feel like this is the year where Clemson comes back and lets Florida State and everybody know that it's cute. We like to see you here, but we're still the top dog.
Yeah, like this is one of the tougher picks for me because it feels like it's just they like don't trust Florida State until they actually do it,
right?
Kind of thing.
You got to earn it.
Like as good as they are, as much as it looks like they're going to vastly improve, it's still kind of like okay, prove it to me,
right?
Especially since they play at Clemson and they play at Clemson early. They don't have a lot of time to gel. I think that's a week 4 game. But I don't want to be sitting here just going the same shit you are.
Yeah.
You gonna take the Noles? I think Paul's gonna love me today because I'm gonna take the Noles. Like Clemson's got some interesting games on their schedule, and again, you only have to look at the conference schedule here.
Yeah.
They just got to make the conference title game at Duke to kick it off for Clemson.
I'm telling y'all,
Duke's going to be an interesting team this year. You got to pay attention, especially Klubnik doesn't have a lot of college start. Does he have a college start under his belt?
Yeah, he took over for DJU.
I forget.
He took over for DJU last year.
I know he took over for him, but
yeah, he's got some starts.
Point is, this is his first, he is the guy all year. And you're going to Mike Elko's team.
Yeah.
In your opener at night.
It's going to be I think that's going to be a fourth quarter game, honestly.
I think it's going to be interesting. And I do have some questions of what if Cade just isn't a huge step up from DJU? I think he'll be a step up. There's a reason why DJU isn't there anymore. And I know he's one of the most talented prospects we've seen in a while. Do not get me wrong. I'm not trying to crap on him. It's just, if this conference comes down to a battle between Jordan Travis and Cade Klubnik, I feel like I've gotten more proven right now from Travis.
That's fair.
I'm looking for
No,
reasons
I know,
to
I
want
know,
to pick
I
the
know.
Noles because we are going to put this down. We are going to write this stuff down at the end of the day. We're going to stick with it. We're going to be checking back in with these predictions because next week we're also going to do some playoff and Heisman predictions and picks. So that's why I'm kind of building this up is like, look, I don't necessarily think it's like, I'm not saying 100% for sure Florida State wins and 100% for sure Jordan Travis is a better quarterback. No, I'm interested to see the answers, but there's interesting things on the schedule, like at the Wolfpack and at Duke for Clemson that I can see Florida State taking advantage of. So that's why I've got Florida State. Also, the betting odds: Florida State's at a plus 170 and Clemson's at a plus 150. Yeah, those aren't far off.
No,
if I'm thinking with my wallet here, shoot, might as well take the longer odds.
No, that's fair. I respect that. And look, honestly, either one of them, it's a toss up. I just feel like right now when you look at it,
I don't know if it's quite a perfect toss up.
It's gonna be pretty close.
My head is probably going with. I'd take Clemson 6-7 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, but Florida State is like they're really dangerous. We'll get into it next. But that first,
so you got
game,
Clemson, I got Florida.
I'm taking Clemson. Headed to the Big Ten. You want to start us off there?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone always seems high on Ohio State, but again, I'm taking Michigan here because it's proved to me that you can do it. Proved to me you can flip the script. Proved to me you can take it back. Like. Especially now we're going to go through another year of, is this Harbaugh's last year because of the whole NCAA thing and how all that's going down. But if you're Harbaugh, you don't want to leave on a loss.
No.
You got Corum back. You got Edwards back, right?
Yep.
Like it feels like Michigan is very close to putting Ohio State where Michigan was at early under Harbaugh, which is damn good team.
Yep.
They just can't beat the rival.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And Michigan, I'm taking the Wolverines as well. And there are probably a lot of these where we're going to be on the same page, but there's no doubt, right? Like
which is why I felt like I needed to pick
their offensive line is stupid good. They've been recruiting year after. They've been putting classes, like they're building something there.
I will say with Michigan, I believe they brought in a good number of transfers to the offensive line.
They did. They brought in a couple of transfers from the offensive line that are going to bulk up. They're going to be fine, though. When you're like one of the top 3 year in and year out for the Joe Moore Award, like you're doing things.
It just does raise a couple questions about their recruiting and how some stuff's panned out there.
No, that's fair.
But yeah, even with that, they're finding solutions.
Absolutely. JJ McCarthy, I think he's the X factor here, right? Like Jim Harbaugh, the whole time he was at Michigan, the question was like he had good pieces, but he could never find that quarterback. He could never find the right guy. He was able to identify JJ McCarthy. He stuck with them through the whole COVID thing and his recruitment. And he has come out to be the truth. He's so fun to watch. Their defense is loaded. I just feel like this is a team that is on a mission, right? Like if you look at last season, they expected to go in and beat TCU. I think what happened to them, they view from their perspective, it was a complete upset. I think it pissed them off. I think it added more fuel to the fire. And if you go back, I know Harbaugh had put in that thing, I believe it was last year, where it was the philosophy in practice where you did the drill to beat Ohio State. Well, he's changed that to beat Georgia. I feel like they've just got the championship mindset right there. They're all cohesive. This is the last opportunity, the last hoorah in the traditional Big Ten. Solidify yourself as the team to beat going forward when you bring in the teams from the West Coast. I'm sticking with Michigan. I think they have something to prove this season.
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up for the Big Ten. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a bit of an Ohio State hater. And
I like Ohio State. I respect them. I think they have some of the dopest uniforms. Period.
Nope.
I love their uniforms.
I'm completely.
But I will
get into that.
I need to see it from the quarterback position.
I think Michigan's uniforms are a hell of a lot better. But yeah,
Penn State's the outlier there.
There's a lot to just distrust for me about Ohio State. Like the way they were beating Michigan was just out-talenting them. Mm-hmm. And now Michigan, they
matched that.
they've largely matched the talent. Like, you're never going to match like the wide receiver room talent, but they've largely matched the talent. Their scheme seems to be better fitted for that matchup, where every year it's the last game of the regular season. It's probably going to be cold. Like, honestly, the weather plays a role. If it's clear, sunny, not too bad, then yeah, you're feeling better about Ohio State. But that's relatively better.
Right.
Like, if it's bad weather, I'm taking Michigan like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to be worried about the weather to pick this game, to pick the champion. So, like, it just seems like it's pretty obviously Michigan's conference to lose. But, you know, I think we're going to go from one of the clear-cut conferences. We're going to go to the knife fight, the dirty, in the mud knife fight of the Big 12. Because I think if there's a conference where you're just like, I have no idea what's going to happen, it's either the Big 12 or the Pac-12.
Definitely.
And I think the Big 12 takes the cake on this, because how many different teams have played for the conference title in the last 3 years?
4, 6,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So
Are
we going to continue that streak?
No. Yes, you are. Yeah, because I'm taking Texas. I think Texas, hands down, has the deepest roster.
Do you still have Tech in that title game?
I'm sticking with Tech.
Wow, you're really going a full.
I said it. I'm going to have to
in 4 years.
I'm going to have to stick with it, because
you don't have to stick.
No,
with
I
it.
am. But I want to, though. Like, I really like what Joey's building out there. I think that will be your Big 12 championship game. And if I'm wrong, cool. I'm wrong. I do. I'm going to stick with Tech.
You're wrong.
I'm probably wrong, but I'm sticking with Tech. No, I like Texas a lot, man. Like, I feel like.
And you got Texas winning?
I got Texas winning it, because this is a massive disappointment in my mind. The depth across the board is stupid good. You have future NFL stars littered across the roster. You've got to be able to capitalize. This is your final chance to stick it to every team that you thought you're better than forever and you've looked down upon. This is your perfect opportunity to ride off in the sunset and put the past behind you and solidify yourself as, oh, we're better. Like I just feel like they're such a small margin. Like, they have to do it. Like, they have to this year.
They have to.
I know.
I think they'll be in Arlington. I think they have too much talent to not be in Arlington. You look at the FanDuel odds, Texas at plus 100. The next closest is Oklahoma at plus 420. I don't know why Oklahoma is the next closest. Kansas, yes, they've got an easy schedule. I just don't trust them too much. Kansas State's at plus 500. Texas Tech is fourth at plus 1100. Yeah. Baylor's fifth at plus 1900. TCU is sixth at plus 2100. That's
some bullshit. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not down with that.
That's
TCU
a little questionable to me too. But I'm still sitting here thinking, Texas went 8-5 last year.
I believe so. I'm not 100% certain on that, but yes, I believe so.
And okay, we got to look this up. Can't get this wrong otherwise.
They go 8-5. They go 8-5.
1 sec.
Paxton, they go 8-5.
Yeah, 8-5. There we go. Sorry, I really wanted to make sure we got that right before jumping in further, because people get a little hairy about that. They went 8-5 last year. You got a quarterback who, for as talented as he is, for how good he looked at certain times, and he was injured. Mm-hmm. I remember all of this, Texas fans. He still has a lot to prove.
No, he really does.
Has a lot to prove. And he doesn't have probably the best running back duo in the nation to back him up, to take the pressure off.
No.
Roschon and Bijan are gone. They've got a lot of talented youngsters, but do we know if any of those guys will even get up anywhere near like the Roschon level of consistency, let alone the Bijan level of consistency and talent and production?
No. I mean, you would hope so, but you really don't.
And then having both of them, like, the Texas offense is going to be different. It's going to be much more centered around Quinn and those wide receivers. Mm-hmm. Talented wide receivers. But I got some questions. I've got some questions that make me think, look, they should make it to Arlington with the talent. But are they going to finish the job? Seal the deal? Like, I think that there's a program out there that I'd trust a hell of a lot more.
And that is?
Kansas State.
Ema.
Yeah. Like, look at their offensive line.
Oh, they're freaking, yeah. BB alone.
They're gonna protect Howard just fine. They're gonna open up gaps for their running backs just fine. They're gonna replace Deuce Vaughn much easier than Bijan and Roshan get replaced. Their quarterback is more consistent and more proven. Quinn could pass that up. Quinn could easily pass that up. But when I'm putting my money down right now, I'm putting on Kansas State. As much as everything about this conference tells me, don't trust a repeat. Don't think about a repeat. It's just like they'll probably barely make a bowl game this year. Like that just feels like the way this conference goes. Yeah. But like, shoot, man, they are returning so much on that offense that just it feels like they're that much more trustworthy than Texas. And Texas has all that pressure to deal with.
That's fair. I wouldn't be surprised if K-State won. I just feel like the circumstances and that little dark horse out in Lubbock, Texas, might have something to say about that.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started.
Have that. On to the PAC in the final season of the Pac-12. Oh man, this sucks. I think I'm still riding with Utah. And you could make a very valid and reasonable explanation of why it should be USC or Washington.
I think I will.
But I'm taking Utah right now. If you look, Kyle Whittingham is calling this the deepest, the best team that he's had. And I know that's probably coach talk to a sense. At the same time, I feel like they're in a position where Cam Rising could miss the entire non-conference. I think they would be fine if they dropped a game. I don't think they will, but if they dropped a game to Florida or Baylor in one of those non-con games, I think they would be just fine if you had Cam Rising come back for conference play. And he can start day one. I'm not saying he's out, but I'm just saying realistically he's on the fence, right? Like if he's going to play. But I feel like he could miss the non-con and they could go in, get him fully healthy, focus on just the pack, and control it. I really think they're disciplined. I think they're overall the most well-coached team in that conference. And I think that you're talking about chips and something to prove. And I like how you drew the analogy of the Big Ten pack. I feel like they have an opportunity to continue their success and carry that over to become one of the new teams of the new look Big 12.
As much as I want that for the Big 12, I'm looking at their schedule and number one, it's going to be disappointing if Whittingham's out here saying this is my best team and they drop without Cam Rising, I still have doubts. Like they should beat Florida. They probably should beat Baylor. What happens if you drop both of those? All of a sudden you're having a really disappointing year.
But are you though?
Yes. You just said the coach said is their best team.
I know, but I'm saying too, like
you won the conference championship twice in a row. Is the conference championship enough?
If your starting quarterback is not available for those two games and then you came in and you just controlled conference, yeah, I'm saying that would be good enough.
Man shouldn't be saying it's his best team when a certain quarterback isn't ready to go.
We'll let that be a different. We'll just agree to disagree on that.
Now I'm looking at it. So UCLA, I'm not too worried for them on that. But at Oregon State, bye week, Cal, USC, Oregon, like you catch a lot of the biggest matchups early on in conference play. Cam's gonna have to get up to speed fast.
That's a good point.
He's going to have to get up to speed fast. I don't really trust him, especially when you're going at Oregon State, at USC, at Washington. The schedule doesn't really look favorable to me to make and win the conference championship. It looks just fine if you're like worried about going bowling, worried about getting an 8-win, 9-win year. Right. It looks just fine for that. But when I'm talking about winning the conference, I'm not liking Utah's odds, especially centered around their quarterback, their star starting quarterback coming off an injury, a knee injury, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And he's a mobile guy, or he was a mobile guy. That was a big part of his game, big part of his star power. Yep. Like, I wish the best for him. I really do. I don't know how quickly he will get back to that best.
That's fair.
And I think that's a big reason why I'm taking USC. I am taking
Riding
USC.
with the Trojans.
You're going to give me the odds-on favorite? Like, you're taking the team that it's at number 4 in the odds. They're behind Washington and Oregon and USC.
Are they really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I don't know if it's hilarious. There's a lot of talent. Like, I do just a three-peat, man. A three-peat.
It's difficult. It is very difficult.
So impressed. I would be beyond impressed to see them three-peat. So I just think USC's finally going to have that breakthrough year for the Pac-12. I don't necessarily think the playoff.
Right.
I think they might slip up enough to get kept out of the last 14 playoff. But that will be interesting to see. I'm going to ride with USC all day. I do think we need to get over to the SEC now. We're running long in this segment.
I know. SEC, Georgia. I'm taking Georgia until somebody knocks them off. I have questions if Carson Beck, I mean, coming in as a freshman, you have all the talent around them, but you are called like
You're college football.
You're the college football right now, and you're doing things that we haven't seen in a long time. The schedule is literally like a JV schedule for the most part so I'm taking the Bulldogs. I think I'm taking Georgia to win the SEC.
Yeah, same here. Like we'll get to the playoff next week, but for right now, it's just conference shape. I'd be stupid not to pick Georgia. I'd be stupid not to pick Georgia.
You got to ride with the dogs.
Like
right
I'm
now.
happy to disagree with you on these other some other conferences, so we can like have a winner hopefully at the end of this. But like, shoot, I
would love to say
nope.
I would love to say
not going against
LSU,
Georgia.
but nah, Georgia's taking it.
Oh, you want to say Livy State University?
I'm not touching that. And we will come back in the final segment to do some of the top things we're looking for in the upcoming season. This is the College Chaos Podcast. Welcome back into the College Chaos Podcast. Garrett Ross, Jack Mackenzie here with you, and we're going to put a bow on this show with just a couple of questions that we have for the upcoming season, like some of the top games we're looking forward to. Can Penn State finally get over the hump? These are a few things I'm wondering about, and let's start with Penn State for a second. You've kept an eye on Big Ten football your whole life, right? Like we know the background with Purdue. Penn State's always intriguing to me because they're always there, but they could never figure it out. Like Sean Clifford was a good quarterback, but he could never just get them over the hump. And now you've got the new guy coming in and Drew Aller. I like Drew Aller. I think he's got a lot of potential. I like Penn State. I would love to see Penn State get back to the just being
Up
mixed
there
up
with the
in
greats.
championships and stuff.
Think about that like whole group of like Penn State, Nebraska, Miami. They're all not at that level anymore. Penn State's the best out of them, but sorry. Anyway.
No, that's a really good point. I mean, yeah, you could throw a handful of other teams in there as well, but like, I feel like this is the year, right? Like Penn State has got to figure it out. They have to get to the Big Ten championship game. You go to Ohio State, that's going to be tough. Anytime you go there, that's a difficult matchup. But I honestly would not be surprised if Penn State upset Ohio State.
I would love it.
I think like because if you really, it all goes down to like, it's kind of like we were talking about with Michigan, right? Like Penn State can match Ohio State in every position group on the field this year with this team. I feel like, except for the receivers, like you're not matching the receivers. Yeah. But at the same time, when it comes to the most important position on the field, you have that edge this year with Aller. You have that edge at the quarterback position. So that is one thing I'm looking at is, can Penn State get to the Big Ten championship, and can they finally emerge and kind of rekindle that old tradition that they used to have?
I believe it's still East-West, right?
Yeah, this year.
So no.
Well, it's whatever. It's the champion, I don't remember how they worded it.
Leaders and Legends is very old.
Is that old now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It quickly became East-West.
Okay, good. East-West.
Which means no, because Michigan.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get over that hump. But I'd be very interested to see if they could get over the Buckeye hump this year. I just do think that there's a consistent problem with James Franklin teams, which is actually like, he brings in a lot of talent, but they end up getting slightly smaller and smaller in the trenches. Like, instead of getting the biggest guys, like, I don't know if it's losing recruiting battles or just not fighting for the biggest guys.
Yeah.
He goes for the smaller but highly skilled guys, which is great to get you to the point they're at. But after that, it's tough to beat those top teams. It's going to be really tough to beat Michigan. I think Ohio State's in the wheelhouse actually for them this year. But yeah, that's where I see Penn State at, is they're close. I question if James Franklin's ever going to really get them over that hump or not.
I've been there a million times thinking about that with him. He's a good coach, but can you?
Yeah. So what's your next question?
What non-con game are you looking forward to the most? Like, is there like one or two that stick out that you're just like?
I mean, I definitely want to see a couple of early Big 12 ones, TCU, Colorado, week 1. I just want to see what the Dion stuff looks like.
That's going to be intriguing.
What does that all look like? I believe it's at TCU this year. Mm-hmm. So Dion back in the Metroplex.
Yep.
The home of his, I'm assuming now defunct Prime Prep Academy. Had to play a couple of those teams back in high school. Or like they're like, I don't know, middle school teams.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't their varsity for sure. But that Baylor and Utah, just because I'm going to be at it.
Yeah.
Like that one's really exciting to me. I'm trying to think of which other ones are like out there.
I know for me, it's definitely the first one of the year, LSU and Florida State in Orlando.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
how
like that.
Did I forget?
The way that crap went last year. I know LSU was able to work their way back into it. You have Mason Smith coming back this year, healthy, hopefully, because he had that fluke injury that just ended him for the season last year. That's one I'm keeping an eye on. Another non-con game that is not going to get a lot of attention outside of the state of Texas that I'm really intrigued by, UTSA and Houston.
Oh, I thought you were going for UTEP.
No. If we're talking about, like, I know all eyes are going to be in Dublin and they're going to be looking at Navy and UTEP and Jacksonville State is going to be a really good game week 1. But no, UTSA and Houston, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. UTSA is in a situation right now where they have gone to the American. I feel like they're going to be the team coming out of there that pushes Tulane probably in that championship game with Frank Harris and them. But when you go back to look at them in Houston, I feel like UTSA is in a better position as a whole than Houston. Like, I would feel more confident in UTSA entering the Big 12 this season and their success than Houston per se.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one I'm keeping an eye on.
A lot of great non-conference games
Absolutely
this year. I mean, you got Oregon and Texas Tech.
That's going to be so damn fun.
As much as I'll crap on Texas Tech, I am very interested to see that game, especially because that's going to be either like I was right, or like,
and Tyler Shutt,
I was wrong. Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean,
I feel like I'm going to get some very early good answers to whether or not I'm going to have to eat a lot of crow.
Right.
And then UCF Boise State is one.
That's tricky. Like, I know, I feel like, is that the one right before Baylor? I feel like they have to travel to Boise and then they go back and host Baylor. I could be wrong on that.
No, it's a couple weeks.
Okay, but still, that's tricky.
It's the same week as Baylor, Utah, I believe.
Okay. Now, that's one.
There's a lot of good games on September 9th.
Texas at Alabama, September 9th, hands down is the one, though. I think that's probably
a lot of good games on September 9th.
That's probably the one everybody is.
Don't forget Ohio State Notre Dame on September 23rd, though.
I think Notre Dame gets them.
I'm interested. I want to see just how down of a year this could be for Ohio State. Or is Ohio State just going to keep trucking and be like, what, you thought we were dead? And it just ends up being an undefeated matchup going into the game.
No. Those are a few that I was looking at, though. Is there anything else that you would like to touch on before we get out of here?
No. Was there like one more question you had?
All right. Yeah. Can Georgia three-peat? Is Georgia going to three-peat? I don't think they do.
I just, this is me and just the pure history and math of it just being like, no, like the last time someone three-peated, look at any team that's ever three-peated, even going back to when you could claim titles for this or that because of all the different polls and associations. Like, there aren't many three-peats out there. There really aren't. One of them was freaking Army because of World War II. They just had all the best, like, able-bodied men. Like, you know, there just aren't a lot of three-peats. And so, as great as Georgia's been, I think it would, like, has Saban three-peated?
No, hell no.
Exactly. Like, the GOAT coach hasn't three-peated. If Kirby Smart gets this done with Georgia, the only way it's not remembered as, like, the greatest college football, like, team for a set of years ever is if some of this off the field stuff just keeps piling up and we like down the road get some definitive damning answer. I'm not saying that that's how it is there.
No, yeah.
I'm not going out on that. I'm just saying, like, that's the only way. If they three-peat, that's the only way it gets detracted from.
No, I think that's fair. Honestly, I could see them getting into the college football playoff, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got bounced the first round.
They will get into the college football playoff. We both think they're going to win the SEC. You win the SEC.
Yeah,
you're in the college.
You're getting him. I just feel like they'll get to that first round, and somebody's going to get them because Ohio State damn near they had them dead to rights last year.
Yeah,
I think that's what's going to be interesting to see. But you know, and if they do, it's history. It's a moment that we can all sit back and appreciate, whether you love or hate the Bulldogs or the SEC in general, for that matter, because a lot of people do. But that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you listening whenever you do. Make sure you go over to YouTube and like and subscribe the channel, as well as check us out on Spotify and Apple. But for Jack, I'm Garrett. This has been the College Chaos Podcast.